Okay, so this is going to be a quick video overview of how I intend to build our automated tree farm, both so I can look at it later when I forget, and so you can help me a little easier. Alright, so the whole thing is based around this filler, which is set to clear the area within these stripy lines, and there will be trees there, there, and there. Right, I'll get to what these are towards the end. So in order to get this to trigger about every 31 minutes, because based on what I've read, that's an average time for a tree to grow, I needed to build a timing circuit that would turn these on after 31 minutes and then reset itself to continue the next cycle in another 31 minutes. Alright? So this whole thing starts with the timer here, which is set to output a redstone signal every 60 seconds. That goes into this counter, which will count in increments of 1 up to 31, and once it reaches 31, it will output a redstone signal into this AND gate. Now this AND gate needs 3 inputs in order to be true, in order to output a single true. So the left input is constantly powered by this redstone torch. The right input will receive a signal once this reaches 31, and the bottom input receives a signal whenever this is outputting to what's the top output right now. So this is a sequencer, and what it does is it will output a redstone signal to a different side every 43 seconds, and this can be changed. And basically why this is here is so that the filler will run for 43 seconds and then stop. That way it should minimize us having to come down and reset the filler, because if the filler goes through the entire area, then you have to come down and open the interface and take out one of the pieces and put it back, and then it'll be reset. But if we don't have to do that, that'd be great. So that's why this is here. So it'll let it run, in this case, for 43 seconds. We can tweak that just by increasing or decreasing that time. And then it will also trigger the reset, right? So once this counter reaches 31, it needs to be reset only after the filler completes its cycle. So it's set to decrement 32, which will bring it back down to its minimum whenever it receives a signal from this side. This stone column is just here so I can make a manual reset if I don't want it to trigger, and it's about to. We could actually include that in the final design, like if you're looking down and you see that that's almost ready to trigger and there's no trees there, you can just reset it. But the way the trigger works is that there's another AND gate that will actually output the signal to reset the counter that requires 2 inputs, and this one's just always true. One, it requires this to be outputting to the right, so it'll always trigger after it completes a cycle that triggers the redstone, or the steam engines that run the filler. And then it also requires an output from this RS NOR latch, which what this will do is whenever it receives a signal on this side through this white cable, this right side will turn on and output the signal through the blue cable, and it will remain like that until it receives a reset signal from this gray line. So the reason I did that is because I needed to make sure that this went through a cycle before this output a signal to reset. So if I, for instance, just set this to reset if this was outputting power and if this reached that, then probably 3/4 of the time it would work. But if this sequencer was on the right output when this reached its maximum output, then it would trigger a reset without ever going through the cycle. Okay. And then we need to reset this RS NOR latch array. And so there's a third output here that whenever the reset of the counter occurs, a signal comes back through. These are in here mainly to prevent backflow, but also to delay this a little bit so that we don't have anything hinky happening by resetting this, which immediately turns it off or anything weird like that. Yeah, so that's that circuit. So basically, in a nutshell, every 31 minutes, this will turn on the filler, let it, make sure it goes through 143-second harvesting cycle, and then turn it back off and reset everything for the next cycle. Now, we're not done. We're not nearly done yet, because when it harvests, everything's just going to drop onto this cobblestone, and it's not going to go anywhere, and we would have to come down here and collect it. So I have it set up that there are 3 water sources. There's 2 more there. There's just the only one I put glass in so you can see what's going on. That after the cycle starts, this piston will open, cause water to flow down. It splits on that, it splits on those 2, it comes out, and it pushes anything that falls into this channel. This channel washes the items down onto these 6 plates, all of which are wired to turn on this steam engine, which powers this obsidian pipe, which sucks anything in there into this pipe and sends it into the chest. And eventually this could be a distribution network that could make torches and everything else we wanted it to do. So the only reason I didn't just set this up to continually pour water in is because of the saplings. If we're continually washing water across this, the saplings will be broken off and they won't have a chance to grow. So there has to be some kind of reset to only allow water down once the sapling has grown. In this case, it's just easier to have it run whenever we know that there are items to harvest. So let's go ahead and change back to dawn. This circuit takes care of that. So this one, and this is just another manual switch if I need to test that. This is another RS latch. What it does is when it receives a signal here, it'll output power here, which is what actually opens the pistons. It will also allow this timer, which is set for 45 seconds, to begin counting. Once that reaches 45 seconds, it'll output a redstone signal. This is here solely to prevent this from doing anything funny. If I put a cable there, it connects there, and I'm not sure if I want that or not. And then this will, once this receives a signal, this latch will go back to this state, close the pistons, and again prevent the timer from counting. So up here, you have to have bare wire on the block with a redstone torch. The bare wire allows it to give power to the block it's on, and that will turn this torch off, which in turn will retract the piston and allow the water to flow. Now there's one last component to this, and that is those things I showed you at the beginning of the video. This is a deployer, and this is a block breaker. So all these deployers are loaded with saplings, and when they receive power, they'll place the saplings, and when these receive power, they'll break whatever block is there, be it a sapling or wood, suck it out, and spit it out the back here. Alright, so because the saplings get washed away if there's any water flowing over them, these need to be triggered after the water is closed. So it comes down to here. This is called a pulse former. It just outputs a 1 tick long pulse that makes sure that these only receive a single triggering event. This is a repeater that will delay that pulse for 128 ticks. It's set to maximum. And what that does is it makes sure that the pulse goes through this white cable first. That is powering the breakers. So once the tree farm is working, there will eventually be a wood block there that'll break the wood block and spit it out there. And then 128 ticks later, this will place down a sapling, which gives the water time to clear out and make sure that this doesn't try and take away the sapling. Okay, so eventually this could be upgraded. We could make a line that comes into the back of the deployers, which makes sure that they're continually supplied with saplings. And then the last thing is the warning light. So if the filler should happen to clear out the entire area and require resetting, it will break this redstone torch. Now this redstone torch is giving power up here. It goes through a NOT gate just so that whenever the torch is there, this lamp doesn't receive power. And so if that torch is broken, this light will come on that indicates the filler needs reset. That tells us we need to go down or wherever it is relative to us. Replace the torch, and probably want to put a chest of torches there. And then we also would need to head down and make sure that we reset the filler. Just go over here. Put the glass back in, reset it, and we should be good to go. So, let's see if this works. I'm going to put some saplings in. We give them a little bone meal. It's going to grow. Try not to kill me. And I'm going to set this to increment by 51 so that the next time this ticks, it will trigger that. And we'll see if it works. Just going to clear this out so that anything we get into this chest is clearly a result of this cycle. Alright, the timer is about to trigger. Another 5-10 seconds or so. Alright, that's at the output. Let me reset this so it doesn't screw anything up later. Now we just wait for the sequencer to come around. That's going to take Alright, so that's turned on. The engines are running. You can see that the water's flowing and the filler is already starting to chop off our wood. But you can see that there's still a wood block in there, which is really important to this design. Otherwise the water will flow in there and get stuck and not push everything out. Now you might notice that things are getting trapped against here, but that's okay because as soon as the water current goes away, the original current will reestablish itself and flow everything down there. Right? So this is about to turn off, and you can see that we didn't actually remove all that much. That's what makes this tricky, is the filler seems to work at different speeds depending on how much material it has to clear out. Alright, so you can see that that just turned off. The engines just turned themselves off. The original current is reestablished. Items are flowing down. Powers that and gets sucked in. We'll watch the next two saplings. Flowing out into the chest. And the deployers have replaced trees. And everything's worked as it should. So the tricky part with this design is going to be finessing this time to 90% of the time remove as much of the tree as possible without requiring a reset. You can see that we've gotten 6 pieces of wood, 2 saplings, and a couple more pieces of wood, 10 pieces of wood, apples, 2 saplings, and there you go.